Good to go. So the doors are closed, so it must be time to kick off. So good morning, everybody. My name is Gareth, Macklin, founder and CEO of Hobby. And over the next 40 minutes, I'm going to take you through the extremely exciting topic of safety, compliance, and governance of the course. But more importantly, as I said, the luxury you're standing here at the front of the room. I'm an operator, founder. My own background, I have about 1,000 people back home in Ireland in family businesses. We operate hotels and several things. With Michael at the back of the room, so he's the sales guy, so we'll stay away from him. So I'll try and educate you, and see he's out the door, he'll try and catch you like that side. So if it's okay, folks, I'm going to ask you, we're going to try and take this a bit interactive today. If you can take out your mobile phones, there's a QR code on the screen, if you scan that, or alternatively, if you go to menti.com, stick in the code. Again, we'll come back to that in a little second. So there's a quick question on it, if you get a chance to fill it in. So as I say, my own background, I spent over 25 years in operations, family businesses, hotels. We're in the care industry. And about 8 or 9 years ago, like many operators, we were doing our normal business, doing things every day, and we had a very, very minor health and safety. Somebody broke their arm in an area they weren't supposed to be in. They were told not to be there, signage not there. But long story short, after the incident, with all the systems and all the controls we put in place, and as I said, we spent over 50 years working in the elder care industry, one of the most highly regulated industries anywhere. We sat down and said, can we do things better? We spent 2 years trying to buy a better product. We couldn't find what we want. So we created what is now become Hobby, one of the leading club-specific solutions anywhere in the world around compliance, safety, and training. But as I said today, is about education, not the product. So 3 things we want to look at is, ultimately, why should you care about this stuff? This is not a topic that jumps to the top of people's agenda. It's not something we get excited every day about. Secondly, more importantly, how can you implement tools quite literally tomorrow morning that can help? And as I said, we started off with 3 takeaways, but we've got a few more for you. So the first question I'd ask you is, if, for example, that you knew something was going to go wrong in any of our operations in 7 days' time, you've got a magic time machine. Right now, today, we've all different clubs, operations sizes across the country. With whatever we're used to look at all of the stuff, our team, our people, our systems, how confident are you that you're meeting 100% of compliance, operations, safety, and training? And again, the analogy is very simple. COST, these are the things that cost time, cost money, and only if they go wrong, which the good thing is they usually don't, so it's not trying to put any fear monger, is, are we covered? So if we take it back to the question there, folks, I'm trying to do technology switch. So this is the live answer from out of the room. And you heard Jay speaking about this morning. The NGSA is now doing the first ever safety in American club report in conjunction with ourselves at the minute. We're founded in Ireland. We're sitting there for about 8 or 9 years, but we're working specifically in the club industry for the last 4 years. We did the same surveys for the last 4 years running with all the associations, like our clients back in Ireland is Royal Portrush, Royal County Down, Ballybunny, world-class clubs. But equally as well, we have large multi-course operators, small, the entire periphery of the industry. Again, those surveys are available if anybody wants them, we'll catch up afterwards. But the survey we're doing with the NGSA, the data, as I said, I can really make a prediction. I haven't met most of the people in the room beforehand. This comes out time and time again. Most of us as good operators say, most of the time we're doing most of the stuff, but it's that bits and pieces that you get onto the scale and look what happens in those sort of things if and where they go wrong. So as we come back from a presentation perspective, some of the figures pulled out of the UK surveys. On average, 4 to 5 managers have said one of the questions is, are you confident you're meeting your legal minimum requirements? That's not best practice. 4 out of every 5 managers says no, they don't believe they are. Equally as well, 3 out of every 4 managers surveyed says that they believe they've had an incident. That's not even an accident. An incident in the club inside the last 2 years may lead to some form of insurance claim like that. And as we know, for any of us been in the industry for more than 7 days, this stuff isn't getting easier. Every day there's more and more people pushing this for bits and pieces from the pressure muscles operators. And really the thing is about technology today, and the question we always ask ourselves as operators, and this was my question about 10 years ago. As I said, I had lots and lots of systems in place. We had state-of-the-art technology doing some things, online learning systems, facility management software. We had elements of pen and paper in some bits and pieces for checks and induction. We had departments ultimately working in silos. So my HR guys were doing stuff for other people. We had my facilities guys doing stuff for the buildings and fire and regulations. And ultimately, as I said, because coming from the care background, every single year we have reports to the government. We have 7 different auditors come to our businesses every year across the entire breadth. From the hotel side of things like clubs, we have the public walking every day. They're going to review us with TripAdvisor and all those things. We have the tourist board. We have the safety executive, which is the equivalent of OSHA. And ultimately, we were saying, look, are we scrambling for paperwork and pen and paper, even when nothing's going wrong? Or if things do go wrong, what is the stress level of all people? And I came back to more fragmented systems, lack of oversight, and this conversation around increases risk. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit more this afternoon. So for users operators, the question is, why are you sitting here? There's 2 other lovely rooms. There's free water outside. I think the bar is even still open up there. But from sitting here, why does it matter to use now more than ever? And as I said, not knowing the operators in the room and your individual operations, I would like to make a fair bet. The following scenario synopsis gives an overview of pretty much all of us. Somewhere at the top is each of you, or replace that with a team member. And every one of us have got people in our organization. We've got staff, we've got volunteers in some cases coming in, we've got customers, we've got contractors. We've got lots and lots of processes going on. We talked earlier on about, are we going to make the decision about putting in state-of-the-art drainage technology? How do we get the steam out from the chef that's maybe not that good today? We've got member staff didn't come in. All of this stuff we do in operations. And somewhere, depending on the importance that people put in, safety sits somewhere. It might just sit relaxed. We're doing nothing about it whatsoever. For other organizations, again, myself and Steve talked last year, loads and loads and loads of things. But the question is, every single individual is going to answer that question slightly different. And the bit we sort of say coming across is, well, look, in many cases, if I was taking a straw poll, does safety sit at the top of the agenda, on the bits and pieces, on the board, on the stuff? The vast majority of time, we've done this for years, the answer is no. And the reason why as operators, we've looked at, well, look, first and foremost, well, look, where do we start? How do we get oversight and compliance? What are we supposed to be doing? And secondly, more importantly, all the bits and pieces, as I've said, health and safety, let's be honest, doesn't get anybody excited and jumping down. In many cases, the questions we hear is, it's a burden, it's red tape, it's a complete pain. But as we'll see later on, as one manager said to me 2 years before the conference, these things are all completely fine until they're not. Then all of a sudden, if you're in that position, as some person unfortunately lost a member of staff, it becomes the most important thing. But it's this bit in between, as I said, 24/7, 365 days a year. We as operators have all the stuff we know we do in clubs. But the question is, within your own club, and ask yourself, how important and how much to prioritize it? And if there's nothing you take away from the presentation today, folks, this is why I sit and sort of slightly tongue in cheek. Please look at this. We as always have coined this the ostrich effect. And again, without me telling you any more, you know exactly. We've heard it all the time. Michael at the job is sort of trying to sell stuff like that there. I'm lucky I just talked to you. But Michael's conversation is, we don't need that technology. We don't care who your customer base is. We don't care how the insurance company says it is. Nothing's happened wrong. We don't need to worry about it. We say the ostrich effect stuff like that for management. But equally as well, the rest of your team are doing the same thing in certain circumstances. Yeah, I'm the head of a Grandma. I've been here 23 years with the best team, best machinery. I've everything all perfect like that there. And unfortunately, I keep saying this, folks, this is not being any scare moment. All we do every day, all day like that there, is talk to people about this topic. And coming from an operational background, we hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. So from our perspective, and as I said, we talk about, speaking to operators in many cases, it's safety versus operations. But from our perspective, it doesn't need to be looked at. The question is, how tomorrow morning can you provide safer operations for everybody under your roof? If anybody asks my job in any of the businesses we own, I have a very simple job, is to make sure everybody under our roof is looked after. There's the hospitality type stuff. There's the banks, make sure they get the money at the end of the month, the staff get their wages. people kept safe, all of those things. So it doesn't have to be an either or, but it does require a change in mindset. And that's where we come back to the cultural type of stuff. Is that organizations, as I said, from the ostrich effect, and from this morning's weekend, I take extreme views. Over here on the right hand side, these are the people who quite literally don't care about it, don't want to do anything, nothing has happened. As I've said, they don't have the scars in the back, and they're very, very lucky individuals. I wish I was with the people there. Equal as well, there's the people in the middle, and they're going, a wee bit do, not really sure. Or equal as well, there's operators over here saying, okay, look, we know we're doing stuff good in customer service, we know we're good stuff in sales, we know we're good stuff in revenue management or yielding, but guess what? We want to do more, we need to do more. This should be no different. So if we look at this, as I said, we work with pretty much every major insurer. So over the last 8 years of our test of fame is every insurance company that we have ever presented to in any industries. We used to be in manufacturing and different things, we're exclusively in the club industry. Every single insurer we put on, I said, Bobby keeps clubs safer, it mitigates risk in a proactive way, and in some cases, it other benefits. But if you speak to your own insurance company like that, and you see the transition, particularly post-COVID, that they will tell you that there is a massive, massive change in this, what they industry call the tick and flick. If we go back to sort of 2018, 15, 10, all those things, we all as operators know the conversation. It's not written down, it doesn't count, and if it is written down, that's great. But what has happened post-pandemic, the insurance industry paid out billions of pounds for lots of things. So we've seen this again, time and time again. When operators who are now paying their premiums in bits and pieces, and nothing goes wrong, they all love us. But if and when you get to the point, in that 1% I keep talking about it, you're putting a claim for something. The insurance company, to be fair to them, are looking at this with an awful lot more scrutinized and saying, okay, I know from first-hand example, we had a fire in our own premises. It was, in this sort of 7-figure claim. We lost about £200,000 in the claim simply because of the fact of the VAT allocation in the hotel and not how that was classified. And the thing is, the VAT went in, they came back out 90 days, the government just went, okay, line 9, page 16, section 4.3, we're not paying you. But what we're seeing from operators, I have another operator in England, piece of machinery, who up recently, about £100,000, $130,000. They went to put in their claim. The insurance company says, thank you very much. We're pleased to provide all the service checks and bits and pieces we're supposed to do that ordinarily years ago were asked. And no, we don't have it. Said, well, unfortunately, as per your terms and conditions, on page 18, line 4, we're not paying it. So this is something, as I said, forget about technology, days about technology. Those things that you're doing and speaking as operators, look, how do we ensure there's not just a tick and flick box, but secondly, more importantly, it's this proactive versus reactive, and this is something we see between good operators, average operators, take it seriously. Again, come back to the ostrich effect. The reactive type of things, okay, well, I hope something doesn't go wrong, but if it does go wrong, we'll deal with it then. Okay, so that'll work. Perfect. So it's not react as opposed to the proactive type of stuff. And again, later on the tips, you will a couple of things that hopefully we'll be able to help with us. And again, this is data coming straight off the surveys for the last 3 or 4 years. This is a small selection of the reasons why operators said they don't believe they're doing what they need to be doing or aren't able to do it. Again, all the answers there itself. Limited time, budget, high training costs, no engagement, lack of procedures, don't know what to do, etc., etc. But the bottom line, folks, and again, I can tell you this as an operator myself, I'm speaking to quite literally thousands and thousands of individuals with our team for the last 4 or 5 years. If again you're in that 1% and something goes wrong, they do not care in terms of authority's perspective. We all have got responsibilities. We've got legal duty. From all we call it obligations. That's why the company is called Audit. That every single one of the obligations to our people, their team, stuff like that. And in these cases, for example, if something goes wrong, the authorities are coming to basically look, check, whatever. Do not care that you didn't have enough staff. Do not care you didn't have the board meetings like that there. So, this comes back to the cost, compliance, operation, safety training of ignoring safety. 4 main bits. And again, These are very obvious, but again, it's important to call them out. If we look at the fines type of stuff, this is probably one of the biggest differences we see from the European culture into the American culture from here, is that, I sit inside Northern Ireland under the UK legislation. If I get it very, very wrong as an operator, ultimately, I go to jail. So there's a law over there, 1974 Corporate Manslaughter Act, that's the variation. Over here, generally speaking, if we get it wrong, we're opening the checkbook and writing a different thing like that. But again, if you speak to the industry, there's all different approaches to this. Nobody wants things going wrong, and there's a variation in terms of that. Second type of stuff, again, we're talking about like social media and all the things like that there. Again, things go wrong 5 years, 10 years, 15 years worth of that. If it was really, really bad, you might be in the paper, word of mouth conversation. We know now things can be averagely tiny, misconstrued. I was talking to somebody last night about a member of staff recently who had a conversation with one of their guests. Inside 24 hours, this thing was on social media, and there's lawyers involved in all bits and pieces. And that's only with an absolute anonymous. If stuff goes properly wrong, how do we protect ourselves from our reputation? The staffing type of stuff, again, I'm fairly sure by the straw poll, is everybody here completely happy with all their staff? If we recruit tomorrow morning, we can all get staff easy, there's no staff shortages. The answer is, of course, we've all the same challenges, whether you're in Ireland, UK, or this side of the water. And the question is, how can we as operators show best practice what we're doing to attract and retain and more people there? And the final slide said we're sort of start to finish off this and also type of stuff. Some of those are pure money type of stuff, some of those are other consequences. So statistic pulled off the back of this is from the American Safety. On average, there's 31,000 golf-related injuries in the United States every year that results in somebody receiving some form of hospitalization like that. So again, we've got these all in sheets at the very end, so for taking notes. The question I'm looking, coming back to your insurance type of stuff. So some of us in the room will be more experts than others. I spent nearly 2 decades looking after all insurance. But one of the questions tomorrow morning we go back to and ask your broker is, if something goes wrong and we're found to be negligent and we're fined, does our insurance cover actually cover us? Yes, it'll cover for the building burned down, it might cover for somebody's arm chopping off this. But this, in many cases, is a whole different classification. And the question is, from our policy procedure, are we covered on? And come back to that conversation, particularly until things don't happen. This is again a club we're working with in the States at the minute. They had a greenkeeper, or remember the economy team, sorry. Conversion from UK across, but remember the economy team. Driving, piece of equipment, going down, hit a curb, came out over the side of the machine, smashed their spine, and has broken their spine, paralyzed. The lawyers are now sitting and have sued the club for $8 million. And I'd say this will be slightly interactive. Can anybody tell me, John, you know the answer, you know this answer. Can anybody tell me what is the base of the lawsuit they have sued the club based on the information I've just given? Sorry? Nope. Give one more go. The lawsuit is based on the fact that they are suing the club to prove that they trained the operator in wearing a seatbelt, which they're not able to do. So I've said the lawsuit will probably settle for something between £4 to £5 million. Again, I keep saying based on extreme circumstances, the 1%, people don't break their spine and get paralyzed every single day. But in this case, post the incident, the law firms all come in and says, okay, how do we find a chink in the armor? We're going to have the big check and stuff. So if I show you this here, folks. So 2 things. One, is not AI, and secondly, more importantly, you'll not see that outside of this room. That is not on YouTube bits and pieces. That is me standing at last year's PGA show 4 hours before the doors open at the biggest industry event for people. Tens of thousands of people. That is me after walking around for over an hour, seeing things like it happen time and time and time again. I went like, this is mental. The second part of the conversation will come back up in a second. This is the law firm in New York. We are purposely taking a name off, so I'm not going to try to promote. I'm going to chase the lawyers. This is a law firm who specialize just in forklift truck accidents within the workplace. So niche so particular. Thankfully, most of us don't have many forklift trucks, but again, the conversation is this firm has said, okay, people have forklift truck accidents, we're going to take a claim like that there, we're going to go after them. Similarly as well, some in the room will recognize this photograph. Picture of hands who was at import. Yeah. Again, you will not see this ever on the internet. This is my phone at 5 o'clock in the morning, 5 hours ironically before Mike had me in the room, speaking to all the team about safety. And what you're seeing for those that haven't been to Monterey, this is the window cleaner. We will come back in a little second. Standing on a 6-step ladder, and down below, that is a 40 to 50 foot drop onto the rocks, like that. No harness, no safety, no anything. And the ironic thing about it is, so I'm sitting at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I thought, to be honest with you, Jay and the guys have stitched me up. They brought in some stuff, man. I'm sitting in the breakfast, couldn't sleep on my own, and I'm the only person in. I thought, right, set up the Irish guy, make a bit of fun of the safety guy. I took the photograph, ran straight up the stairs, asked the general manager. Immediately, obviously, the guys pulled out off the stairs, etc. Manager comes that night and says, Gareth, thank you so much. I can't believe it. This guy was on his 3rd day. There's a massive VIP event in, and he thinks he's doing a great job cleaning the windows at 5 o'clock, which he was. But again, when you come back to the extreme circumstances, his supervisor, who was supposed to be on that, was sick this day, wasn't in. On the building up above, what you can't see, there's a built-in safety harness that this guy should be worn, but nobody being told about it. And again, nothing happens like that. But the reason why I show those couple of things there now, the first example, that guy is driving the forklift truck. I'm pretty sure if his supervisor seen him, he is going to lose the rag in the biggest way and stop it. I'm here, thankfully, he's able to clump you a little bit, stuff like that. But again, going back to each and every one of us, we know what should be done, but we can't be there all the time. Our management supervisor most of our staff, but again, in the 1% of examples, what is happening that culturally-wise, process-wise, team-wise, we should be looking at. And again, folks, as I keep re-emphasizing, this is not trying to get people sleep tonight, but it's trying to put a topic that unfortunately in the industry is not getting enough seriousness, enough priority. I can sit here for the next 2 hours, 3 hours, pull through like this. I pull these things in literally 5 to 10 minutes. Accident reports to workplace, accident reports to this. This again, UK example, an operator on their first day of work, crushed £1 million lawsuit. This is the second one, hospitality venue looking out there, 22-year-old kid working in a bar, went down the stairs to the keg room. Keg came down over the top of them, broke their leg, thankfully nothing serious, but very serious injury. On their first day of work, £108,000 fine from the UK Health and Safety Executive. Again, this is another one of my pictures. I tend to do this sort of stuff, so if I come to your club, you'll never see it, but I might bring it to you. This is a sign on a very, very prestigious club outside London. There's a road going across it, and basically you can read. The sign says, please be careful of the road and traffic and bits and pieces. Again, if I had a car today, fairly sure, to be honest with you, the insurance company, if they're paying serious money, or if the safety executive, they won't and say, folks, that sign didn't happen overnight like that. Your processes and your obligation operators are clearly not doing it. So, quick show of hands, who's ever heard of directors and officers policy? Keep your hands up, please, sir. Who is confident they've got the right directors and officers policy in place tomorrow morning for all bits and pieces? If you have not got it, folks, again, please go back tomorrow morning, speak to your lawyer, speak to your insurer, speak to your internal counsel out there. If something goes wrong tomorrow morning, for me, my team and mine, if I'm a director or an officer of the government organization, what is my legal responsibility? And more importantly, what is my protection mechanism? Again, these are things that you should absolutely have in place. And if you do not, if I'm on the wrong side of it out there and I'm coming in, I am the ocean inspector, I am the ambulance chasing firm, I'm going to be going to do personally out there. So again, this morning is about processing bits and pieces for us. And these are things, for example, can be changed tomorrow morning to make the operation flow and safety for yourself better. Again, as I said, these are statistics just to try and wake things up. On average, again, the statistics show 23 people die in golf courses in America every year. To caveat that, that is not people who get killed in golf courses, that's 23 people die. That'll be a mixture of heart attacks, there'll be a mixture of different things like this here. But again, as somebody, I worked in London at 19, with somebody dropped dead on the floor and working like that. At 19 years of age, an older gentleman took a heart attack like that. Unfortunately, these things happen, but again, is there bits and pieces in place for the more extreme versions, stuff like that. Again, unfortunately, inside that, there is fatalities and work-related injuries, specifically in clubs. Two that I pull out, for example, again, and this is all public information, so as I said, this is a club within the States, and again, you can Google and find out that they had a member of the team in clean lake balls. On this example, unfortunately, the person went in the water and did not get out alive. Post-incident, all the regulators and all the people went look, and they were found that there was 12 different violations. That if you read the court case right through, or the synopsis right through, the 12 different things that all led to this person. Any one of them individually had been changed or correctly done, that person would probably have been done. And the irony of this, again, flip on the other side, this is one of the Hilton courses back in Belfast. The irony, this is my own course, which about 4 years ago, again, all on the internet, you go to the BBC website, they had the exact same thing happen. A person went in, clean the lake balls, which I say happens 1,000 times a year. 999 times or 9,999 times, nothing bad was wrong. But in this example, exactly the same as the club in America. The gentleman came into the water, did not get out. The manager in question, I know personally, inside 4 hours, come back to the Education UK. She was arrested by the police. The head of Runway was arrested by the police and put under a charge. Anything you say can maybe use against you for law. There was a 2.5-year investigation, and at the end of it, she was found corporately not negligent. But the thing is, she left the industry, and as I said, speaking to her afterwards, she says, Gareth, although I was found corporately not negligent, at the end of the day, after this, somebody died in my watch like that. So the thing is, again, this is me in Newcastle Airport about 3 months ago. This is one of the biggest airports in England coming through. If you look here, this is one of these ambulance chasing law firms who have taken over the entire airport. I'm not an advertising expert, but I can guarantee you there's a few pounds being paid here for this type of stuff. This is a 48 sheet outside the airport I've got there. And if you read this here, I followed the TV ads. Again, these guys are advertising on TV. Not cheap, they're paying lots and lots of money for a big deal. I put Wynn's number, which is the company, in it. And they did such a good job, she's even given a 5-star Trustpilot review. That's how happy after getting all the money from somebody. Similarly as well, early in the year at the PGA show, I think I counted from the airport on the final day I come back to the airport, 17 different signs along the motorway, all in this ambulance chase. Did you have an accident in your Uber? Have you bits and pieces? The reason I'm putting this up, folks, for us as operators, this is the other side. This is the people who look at us like the enemy. They are a multi-billion-pound industry, and every single day they're going, okay, how can we extract money out of us here in our businesses? So, from a property perspective, quick show of hands, in the last 3 years, who has a qualified surveyor who has looked and surveyed your property and has given you a report on the valuation of the property? One. Perfect. Again, folks, this is stuff as an operator saying you need to do this tomorrow morning. This usually costs, back home in the UK, get a surveyor in, cost me probably about $1,000, $1,500. The reason why this is important, our buildings don't burn down every single day. But if I work through a single example, there's a thing in the insurance industry called gap insurance. For this hypothetical example, I own a club. I believe the cost of reinsuring the premises tomorrow morning burns down, I think it's £10 million. I've looked at it. I actually come from a building background. However, the building burns down tomorrow morning. I'm speaking to my insurance company. I've said, look, got a big claim to that building, £10 million. They then will send in a qualified building surveyor who works for them, and they will survey the building and say, what does it cost to refit in today's market? They've said it actually costs $20 million to reinsure, to rebuild it. So all of a sudden, I've got a problem because I'm £10 million short because I'm in for £10 million. And you think they're going to pay me £10 million, I have to find the other $10 million. Unfortunately, again, when you speak to people, it gets worse. Because of this gap insurance, you are actually only insured for 50% of the value of the place burned down. So they then take your original 10 million and they cut it in half and they pay you a check for 5 million. So you're now on the hook for 15 million. The reason why I say is come back to, most of us in the room are not qualified builders, surveyors and stuff like that there. Get somebody in tomorrow morning, get the report for 2025, that should give you a 3-year tenure. If they get the figures wrong, they're in the hook. But at the minute, if you're not, this is a major thing we see it all the time. The other type of stuff, folks, when I'm making the bet, is anybody the insurance claims negotiator as part of their policy? Which is usually no. Again, this is something, folks, that for pennies you can buy from your brokers. The purpose of these guys here is that, again, in the extreme circumstances, if something goes very wrong, they come in and they work for you. They will work with surveyors. They're the people that basically ultimately negotiate your check. As I said that day that I got the phone call at 4 o'clock in the morning, we had a building burnt down. First priority is everybody safe, bits and pieces out. With family members staying in the hotel. Done. Great. Then over the next 6 months, I'll deal with insurers, surveyors, bits and pieces, reports. Because we're putting a check for many thousands of pounds. But I'm still trying to run the business. I've still got staff to deal with bits and pieces. These are the experts who are effectively are the good guys that work on your behalf and try and make sure you get the business up and running as best as possible, quick as possible, and get the check. And again, it's something that your broker firm would love to sell you, but I said it's pennies. So the last type of stuff here, again, this is something in the insurance industry that is not overly talked about. And again, it depends on your club, your size, the scale, the parity. But if you're speaking to your broker, the industry is a thing called a risk mitigation fund. That if you're in the position here now that you can proactively show that we're making improvements like that there, and this is across so many things, there may be a possibility they will financially support it. For example, I've just put fire suppression systems into all of our older kitchens. Our new ones we've built in the last 15 years, had them all in. I paid the insurance companies a lot of money that most of us in this room. I went to the guys and I said, okay, I've spent a lot of money putting fire suppression systems. Can you support me with that in? We're like, okay, help a little bit. So again, whether you're putting fire suppression systems, we have clients lobby, for example, that has that as well, or you're just showing better practice, you can be showing improvements, is something we're speaking about. So best practice in terms of helping reduce the cost of that there. The first biggest thing that we say in Big Goal Right, where are we at today? What is our oversight? How can we look at bits and pieces? And do we know actually where we're at? And I didn't say you, I said we as a team, us, our supervisors, our stakeholders, bits and pieces. How do we get that oversight? So the thing we talk about again from lobby is red book planning. Again, this is something we've taken to the health industry for 40 years. And it's very, very simple. Get your team in a room tomorrow morning. This takes 60, 90 minutes like that there. And I say to your team, not the manager, or senior people. One of the best examples we did this with a 22-year-old kid who just turned 6 weeks. They worked at McDonald's for 7 years. And the purpose of scenario planning, or red scenario planning, is when we don't have something go wrong, let's whiteboard all the things that potentially go wrong, just put them on the board. Then the bit which is more work, to be honest with you, once you put them on the board, the question is, if that happens tomorrow morning, how well prepared are we? What is our current processes, systems, bits and pieces? The building burns down. With all of these different things, some of this stuff we maybe are doing, some we're not. But again, come back to the cost framework, 4 simple bits. Communicate with the team. Get as many people as involved. Oversight, as we said, is essential. There's not much point going, okay, well, if we think we've got this, we might have this for tomorrow. Safety audits, again, depending on what we're doing, how are we looking at all those different examples? People have online learning systems. Is there training up to date? Is there checked? Is there balance? Is there fire? And the big thing, folks, obviously, I'm sitting here as an owner of a technology company, specifically in safety. I'm going to be slightly biased, but there is lots and lots of technology out there that can help us. We just happen to think we're the best one in the world. I can tell you here now, technology helps in many examples. Only if you do look for it. And if we look at this example across the clubs, this is sort of a very high-level synopsis. Before technology, we go back 5, 10, 15 years. Those who are in Brian Smith, founded BRS, is a very good friend of mine. 20 years ago, as he would say it. His first thing was whenever you get a BRS, which is then in the golf now. The days of balls to shoot, ring up, queue. You've got membership renewals are all posted out. We've got cash payments for everything. We've got pen and paper, food and beverage, manual stock, etc. All of those parts of the club, and equally as well, paper-based risk assessments. We've got sign-off check sheets. We've got communication with staff and people. We forward today and take all those other things, online digital T systems, membership booking system, contacts, payment, etc. But unfortunately, folks, if we go down the bottom right-hand corner, we look at the safety part of our clubs. To be very honest, they're still sitting in the 16th stuff out there in terms of the technology things that are out. And the reason why it is again, because keep saying if things go wrong, that's tomorrow's problem, that's the 1%. Because as operators, we're dealing with all this stuff from things like that. When we look at our systems, it is all scattered around the club in multiple different ways of things. And this is just a high level. Scatter risk assessment, missing certificates, safety record, paper binders, trainer record consistent, near misses, multiple conflicting systems. But my message again is it does not have to be like this. We come back to the gold cost framework. That was my problem, as I said at the start. All of this stuff's in silo, and I said, okay, what folks, in the next 5 seconds, how do we get an idea if we're meeting our obligations? How does the team got some piece of look out there? And everything needs to be connected before we get it. The figures show again, from the safety executive, an effective system like that there reduces accidents on average by 33%. This is tangible benefits, money benefits, saving benefits like that. And this is why I said it needs to be on the top of the agenda in terms of board perspective the way through. As I said, I leave you today my question for you to go back. Are we all meeting our obligation across the entire club? So as I said, from our perspective, back to Bobby was that sort of framework to say how we provide safe operations across all our people that allows us to operationally do stuff we need to do. On average, we put like 76% of admin stuff out. That is time you can take back tomorrow morning to be more front of house and engage side of things. But it's that ability to get oversight, whatever you're looking at. As I said, there is loads and loads of ways of doing it. Even if you're doing things on pen and paper with one of the complete opposite extreme technology, are we looking at having oversight and are we ultimately making the club safer? So, in conclusion, Mike asked me to put together, this is a quick synopsis.
I think from our point of view, it's helped. That will help more. I think it's something that we all push to the back of the desk because health and safety is a big scary thing. And obviously taking away that fear for a lot of our staff. We used to have lots of bits of paperwork, filed in different places. Now we've got everything in one system, which is really useful for me.
I suggest you take public golf off. It actually makes life easier. Your paper trail is less because everything's digitized and it's on the server and you can pick it out at any time. It's helped me with insurers. It's helped me with licensing. It's been
the reason folks again whenever you hear Mike ask this afterwards is that every one of these clubs, so some of you may recognize, Royal Dornoch, second most club in the world. Second club is one of the most prestigious ones in London. And the third club, after a couple of weeks ago, Beth Page, of course, Hollywood, Rory McIlroy. Didn't want to mention it about there, but slightly sensitive. But the reason I put it on, folks, every one of those operators are world-class operators. They're doing stuff extremely well. And that's the conversation we hear all the time. From the very best of people, which hopefully in this room, we're doing things really good, hopefully it's good. My advice is, folks, things can be significantly improved. So in conclusion, folks, wrapping up, as I said, 3 key points. Number 1, please do not be an ostrich. Get the head out of the sand and say, okay, what can we do? Number 2, run that exercise from regular plan scenario. And number 3, the most important bit, folks, is that we talk about the 1% for 2 reasons. One, you go home and have sleepless nights. But secondly, more importantly, the reason why it is the 1%, everywhere today, somebody is going to be that 1%. And if you fall that percent like that there, it's 100% of your opinion. So in conclusion, folks, we put together a whole series. I'm not going to run through them now, but this can be downloaded after speaking to Mike again, specifically for we do a lot of work with Taylor and the guys like that, and this is sort of educational resources. There's 2 things. So in terms of advice like that, there are 5 simple takeaways like that. Start small, in terms of wins more and more, and those are things just bits and pieces. How can we do stuff that ultimately, if you're doing this here, it has to be 1 of 3 things. Save you time, save you money, and mitigate risk. If it's not, we're in business, and nothing's going to do it just for a bit of fun. Ask for advice from the experts. Again, as I said, we are world class at what we do. We're not safety consultants. I'm not the person to tell you what fire extinguisher we use and what the 2012 Fire Act's about. There's insurance companies, there's brokers, there's all the people. we bring all the stuff together, but those people are there, they're there if you ask for their advice. Involve your team, as we mentioned, and ultimately share those wins. As I said, in the last month, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, we talk to him about lots of bits and pieces, how much we talk about this sort of stuff. I'm making a very good bet, except for Steve. Not a lot of time for that thing. So again, these are the advice sheets, as I say, we're not going through, but we split it down into 3 main categories. Stuff and process to put in for your people tomorrow. Stuff in terms of processes, and stuff around property. And ultimately what we're looking to do is, how can you transform yourselves by taking that burden and challenge of compliance, operations, safety, training, from not being a burden anymore, but actually create a foundation of an exceptional customer and guest experience building forward. I can give you example after example where things have made better, improved the business like that there, which we're thought of burdensome. And we take our guy down your own to the 1%. This is the same guy after he's met Macklin, spoke about all we looked at there. This was him 3 days later. Slightly tongue-cheek, but we're looking for efficient operations for all of our teams. And ultimately, from a knowledge perspective, peace of mind. So from my side, I just say a massive thank you and give off, as Jay mentioned there this morning, with Rachel and all the guys, there is the first service ever done in club safety, closing 2 weeks specific for the membership. On the left-hand side, this is the survey. If you haven't completed, it's been out several times. Taylor Hicks sent it again next week. Please put it in. It's completely anonymized. But again, off the back of it, ourselves, NG Swear, we do stuff after. On the right-hand side, that's resource talk about and a series of other free resources for yourself. So just to say thank you very much. Hopefully the accent's okay. And over for any questions. It's always a bit where everybody goes absolutely. Do we think, folks, just even from looking at that, and again, that's why I go back to 1%. My expectation, this is the top 90-95% of operators. This is why we're here. But is there anything in that people sort of stands out from an agreement perspective? I think as well that's slightly more challenging, or doesn't agree with them?
I would just say that so not free. C-suite executives of the workforce, especially in specific states. I don't know operate in certain states, but let's say so I think this is very important from the clients associated.
Yeah, the biggest thing from our perspective is just to share the learnings from what happens out on the golf course and stuff that happens, and we want to share that with all the properties and being able to learn from accidents and worker comp situations and having resources to help educate our operators.
I think again, as I take like the exact example of that is the shared best practices. And that's why I said this is all we do all day, every day. But my own story is very simple. It was an extreme example. We had a water leak in one of our stores. The 2 days before Christmas Day, Friday evening, one of the busiest Black Friday business nights of the year. Manager couldn't get a plumber at 5:30 in the evening, called all the staff together, team briefing, 2 managers, 15 staff. Do not go into that store tonight. There was signage put up. There's team briefing for signage in the yellow wet floor. 3 hours later, one of the year member staff walked in, fell over, slipped, and broke the arm. Inside 30 minutes, our head of safety was on site, by chance of passing the site. One of the most highly qualified safety people in the whole of Ireland, consultancy firm. They did everything perfect, filled in all the forms, checklists better than anyone could. 6 weeks later, we got the solicitor's letter through the door and said, "Thank you very much for all your evidence, all the witness statements, all the bits and pieces. However, please provide the written documentation to prove that my client heard the instruction." Yeah. It costs about 70, 80,000 bucks. But again, as I've said, that is the extreme of extreme versions. Yeah. But when you're having that conversation, people say, well, actually, if that happened, Gareth, the seatbelt one, folks, is the prime example. If you've got a ground members looking at that there, back tomorrow, they said, I have 3 children. Every one of the 3 of them, the morning they come out of the hospital, probably most of us, they're in a seatbelt, and a seatbelt ever since. It's common sense, but we were all rare in the word of common sense. The ambulance chasing the nurse, that's what you talk about, is it coming back. That example, unfortunately, simply meant with one person, the lawyer. Well, as an industry, how can we share as appropriate best practices and those things? So that we'll actually, all our plumbing team are actually trained in wearing a seatbelt. The reason I put it up, I could give you 1,000. That's the extreme version. So it's super basic, but 8 million lost. Leave it there. Say thank you very much.